Hey kids, let's talk about death. I don't know how to make death fun, but I want to make death fun and I want to make it relatable because we don't talk about death enough. I talk about death all the time. I think about death probably like, I don't know, depends on the day and it depends on my stress level, but I'd say I think about death anywhere from 50 to 80% of the day. We're here at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery and we're gonna talk to Chanell O'Farrill about everything death. Just all death forever. There's mostly fear and death because it terrifies me. I'm less trying to answer a question today and more trying to just like figure out a way to talk about death so that like I feel better about it and other people feel better about it. Like if I make it worse for you, I'm so sorry. How long has this been here actually?
Almost 120 years, about 120 years.
Whoa.
1898, I believe, was when it opened.
Whoa.
There are family mausoleums, like this palace over here.
It really is a palace. This is bigger than my home, my actual home.
You get the upright markers, you get just a simple flat marker. Of course, there's cremation. People come, for their grandmother, grandfather that, that wasn't a celebrity, but in their hearts, it's the same effect.
Yeah.
You're coming to make a little shrine for that person and focus your love and your energy and your memories and what they contributed to your life.
I know, I'd rather just be like, burnt up, tossed somewhere.
Sure.
I don't know how to deal with death at all. I think death is bullshit. It just fucking sucks. You go to a funeral and then you're like, wow, this is weird, this sucks. And then you go home and then you process by yourself and you either do it well or you do it poorly. And then that's it. And like, I don't even know how to talk. Like, when someone dies and you're talking to the person who's still dealing with the death, how do you deal with that? I just say, that sucks. Funerals are weird. So let's just say I buy 100 acres of land. Can I make that 100 acres a cemetery?
Not without filing with the state as a cemetery. So cemeteries and funeral homes are regulated by the Department of Consumer Affairs. They have a cemetery and funeral bureau, and then they have a bunch of hoops you would have to jump through.
That makes sense, because then I'm just a guy burying bodies.
Yeah, then it's weird.
Yeah, I guess so. What are the rules of like spreading ashes? Can I just throw ashes anywhere I want?
You can't, actually. You cannot. Just dispose of cremated remains either just in a pile where they're completely visible or in a public place. You need to actually, part of what a funeral home does is they file a permit, literally for permission, number one, to cremate or to bury. Number two, it has to state where the cremated remains or the deceased is going to be. A lot of people think like, oh, well, I can just, even scattering at sea, so common, right? People think, well, I'm just gonna take the urn to the ocean and wade in and then just scatter mom's ashes. Not legal. Don't let anyone see you do it. It's not legal. Legally, you have to be 500 yards off the coast, and it has to be scattered by a licensed or cremated remains scatterer.
There's licensed scatterers?
There are licensed scatterers.
What?
Yes. Yes.
We're about to be, like, we are literally standing on people's graves.
Correct.
Is there an etiquette to
Well, I guess
graveyards?
if it can be avoided, you don't want to, traipse through, like especially if there's, flowers set in front of it or if it's a designated place. Some of the burial places will have like a border, you want to be mindful of borders.
Okay.
But as far as flat markers and getting from point A to point B, it's really understood that if you just walk like you normally would, you're going to be walking on people's burial sites and it's okay.
Right.
People do much worse, infuriatingly enough.
Really?
Oh, yes.
What do they do?
People want to sneak in and take, salacious pictures posed on.
Who wants a naked gravestone picture?
I mean,
who wants a naked gravestone?
It's awful.
I guess
Please don't do it.
Yeah, not here. You
We
get
will
your own
throw you
gravestone.
out.
Yeah. If anyone has seen a ghost or felt a ghost or experienced a ghost, it's you. Right?
Yes.
I don't believe in ghosts at all, so I want to know how do you feel? Like, what do you?
I like the idea of ghosts, but I don't like the idea, of them being trapped or angry or.
Yeah.
I've only had a couple of instances where I was like, that was weird. It was when I first started here. I'd gone to the chapel to train on an evening service with my boss, and I realized I'd left my purse inside one of the buildings here. And so she gave me the keys and said, it's this one. So I'm in the dark fumbling with the lock, and I felt like, like if someone stands too close to you, you get kind of like why are you so close to me? So I'm, just trying to find the lock in the dark, and I just felt like this presence, like heat almost, come right up against the back of me. And then I said out loud to no one, I'm just getting my purse and then I'm leaving. And then I felt like it just was removed.
I got shivers from it. I got shivers. I don't even believe in ghosts. I'm like, good, get out. It's fun to talk about ghosts, and people love like ghost shows and ghost hunting, and like talking about seeing a ghost or whatever. But like they don't want to talk about their funeral services or death or dying. Why?
I would guess just because then they have to personally deal with their own mortality.
Do you fear death?
I think I fear maybe how my family will feel. You know, I think sort of beyond the actual like checkout. I think more about sort of what's left behind, or the people, my family being left behind, or people having to like clean out my house.
Oh, you know what? I never really thought about that.
Which is just, that's scary.
Depending on when I can imagine that death, even if it's like, okay, so you're laying in your bed, you're 100 years old, best life ever, but I'm like, there are still things I'm going to miss, you know, like, you know, whether it be like my children, whatever, these milestones that like I want to be there for, that I know I'm going to miss.
Yeah.
Like that to me is the part where it's like, God, I don't want to acknowledge it, because then I have to acknowledge that I won't physically be around to see these things and experience them, and like that
heavy.
Sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. Like I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about it.
So there's a sadness. It's almost a sadness more than a fear, right? It's
yeah.
just like a
yeah. That sucks. That's shit.
It does. People say funerals are for the living, right?
Yeah.
And even, you know, some would say cemeteries are for the living. I think that this vessel is worth honoring and remembering, and you know, it's how we know each other, how we move through this life, how we make any contributions we made, big or small.
I'm trying to think of how to talk about this, because it's like a lot of children's graves over here and stuff like that. And it's a thing that I guess I really avoid thinking about that across the board.
I mean, I think a big part of, if we're talking about death, is it strikes anytime, anywhere, any age.
Parents always go first. That's my rule.
Yes.
Parents first.
Yes, yes.
With food and with dying. You encounter I'm assuming grieving families on the reg.
Yes.
And like, is there a better way to like deal with it or like work with it? Like, how do you do that?
In a way, like it kind of confirms your fears of dying or death, because it can happen like anyway, anytime.
This is the second time you said it, and I keep going like, stop reminding me.
I know, I'm sorry. But with that in mind, it keeps you mindful, keeps you respectful, it keeps you careful, it keeps you grateful.
If I see someone crying and like I know why they're crying, I'll probably start crying. So like, do you ever like just go home and just like bawl it out?
Sometimes I don't even make it home before I start bawling.
Really? Is there like?
Yeah.
Do they just like? Is it just the day you're having, or is it like specific things hit you?
I think it's specific things. Older couple, right? Big, beautiful family. So I'm about to close the casket, and the family stops and says, oh, you know, he just wants to say one last goodbye, the husband. No problem. So I'm standing at the head of the casket while he's just right in front of me, and he starts talking to her. And he starts saying the most beautiful, poetic things I've ever heard in my entire life. I'm gonna cry now. And I'm just like, I couldn't hold it. I just looked at the family and I was like, I'm sorry, as I'm like bawling.
This is gonna sound horrible. I like death because it kills rich people. Like even rich people, like billionaires, cannot beat it. And
It's true. It's the great equalizer.
It is the
as
great
they say.
equalizer,
Yeah,
and it makes me like sometimes if I'm in a weird mood, I'll be like, even rich people aren't gonna win this one. It makes me feel good. I don't know why. How did you get here?
How did I get here?
Yeah.
I was working in a different field completely, and then left that job and was in my mid to late 20s and thinking, what am I going to do now? I need a career. And in the meantime, my grandmother asked if I would drive her through crazy Hollywood to visit her parents, my great-grandparents.
Okay.
Brought her here, fell in love with the place, fell in love with the history. Everyone we met was super nice and young and cool, and like, how can we help you? Who are you looking for? And it just got my wheels turning. Grandmother, embarrassingly enough, made the phone call for me. I'm a grown woman, Grandma. You don't need to make that phone call.
Yes, she does.
And so she called and asked, oh, do you guys have any openings available? My granddaughter thinks she wants to be a funeral director. They said yes. They set up an appointment. I came and interviewed, and here we are, 18 years later.
Whoa! Do you drive the hearse?
I do.
You do?
I do.
What's that like?
It's a perk.
Really? It's like
No, it's a beautiful car.
It seems like too much responsibility. I feel like one wrong speed bump and you're just done.
It is. I mean, could you imagine, or even just getting a flat tire? I mean, you think
about that. No.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah. Has it happened? Has that ever happened?
Thankfully, not to me. I'm sure it has happened.
Yeah. 6 Feet Under, the TV show,
Right.
like bury people 6 feet under. You can
Right.
like, is it 6 feet under, and like why?
It's about that.
Okay.
Might be a little deeper. It's basically just imagine trying to accommodate the size of the casket that's in a vault, right? So it's actually quite large.
Mm-hmm.
Once you lower that, now you've got a good like 3 or 4 feet of earth on top. If you dig it too shallow, then over time you might be seeing the top of a vault.
Do you believe in anything as far as like what happens after you die, or in general?
Well, I was raised Christian, so it was like half my family was Catholic, half my family was Christian.
Okay.
That's just kind of like an understanding that I'm comfortable with. However, I don't know how deep my faith goes there. Bells when we're talking about religion.
Bang, 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 bang.
I like the idea that we are energy, that we are consciousness, that we are something about our life force goes elsewhere.
A lot of people say, because I ask this question a lot, like just
Sure.
it's like at a party, like it's like,
It's
hey, what do you
fantastic.
think?
Yeah.
And yeah, your answer is like a very typical answer of those who don't, I wouldn't say don't believe in like an afterlife or anything, but like they're just like, well, I think there's something more, and I think my body and energy can go somewhere. And my thing is like, it is. You're feeding an ecosystem when your body is put in the ground, of some sort, unless you're
That's
burned
happening.
or whatever. Yeah, and then that. That essentially cycles back into new life elsewhere, which will then keep cycling around and around unless this planet goes to a barren nothingness. But even on a long enough time scale, who knows?
Sure.
We'll just blow up at some point and then start again 100 million years from now or billion years from now.
Right.
So like, it's like, I don't know. I think to me it's just like nothing. I think
Basically, the light switch just in your
off.
Yeah.
And so, but I think that does inform that fear of like death, I think, harder, instead of like thinking, oh, maybe there is something more, so it's cool, like I can like not have to worry about it and want to be around for as long as I can. I'm just like, this is it, so I want to be around as long as I can, but like the other side of that is I also want to experience the world and like, get out in it, and because this is it.
Yeah.
So it's a weird, like, be careful, but also go see it. I actually feel better now that I'm done, just having like talked about it so much. It feels like it's more normal, like it's something that is actually a part of my life and not some weird hidden feature of it. I'm gonna go talk to my parents and my wife and my wife. I'm gonna go talk to my parents and Bailey and just kind of have a conversation about like, what we're all thinking here. And I think that that's good, and it's a good thing to do right now. And I hope that somebody watching this is either like, less afraid of death, or is more like interested in looking to like ask more questions. And maybe like, in the end, here's the thing that I didn't expect to come out with, which is that I think about death a lot. I fear death, and I still have like a healthy fear of death. I don't want to die, but the reason I don't want to die is because I want to live. It seems obvious, but it's also not what I focus on. I always focus on like, death is shitty, that's awful, and not because I love life. So I think that changes like how I operate and interact with the world, because now I know that I love life because I love life. It's pretty cool. It's a really neat thing. I want to thank Hollywood Forever Cemetery for having me. This place is beautiful. And I also want to thank Chanell O'Farrill for having me here and just walking me around. One of, if not the best funeral director I've ever interacted with. And by one of, I mean she's literally the only funeral director I've ever talked to, and the best. I know this might sound like weird advice, but like this was such a beautiful and serene experience. So if you're having a day, you don't know what to do, see if there's a nice cemetery around you. Go take a walk. Make sure you like and subscribe. If you liked this, please check out some of the other videos. They're a lot of fun, and the more you watch, the more we can make of these. So thanks for watching.